John Fredericks, America's Godzilla of Truth. He's popular and proficient in picking politics with prophetic precision. And now J-Fred's picking sports. Are y'all ready for this? All across the airwaves and streams of the John Fredericks Media Network, John, Jack, and Nate, three guys that are pretty wise when it comes to picking winners. Football, basketball, baseball, soccer, golf, UFC battles, you name it. When the game is on your mind and money's on the line, Godzilla Wins is your guide to picking winners. Before you make that play, hear what J-Fred has to say. Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network.
Oh yeah, for entertainment purposes only.
Everyone, and welcome to the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show. My name is Jack Fredericks, alongside my host and my father, John Fredericks, the Godzilla of Truth, our senior editor, Nate Perry, and our guest for today, both Dan Angel, who's going to talk to us about all of these sports happenings this week, busy week in sports, and later at the top of the hour, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, James Tillman III will come to handicap the NFL wildcard weekend. What a spectacular week in sports. We got the College Football National Championship on Monday. We got an incredible amount of coaching carousel to talk to, both in the NFL. And, of course, the news of Saban's retirement and the swift replacement of Kalen DeBoer as his replacement in Alabama. We got golf starting. We're going to do some hockey talk, a little bit of college basketball, and, of course, the NFL wildcard weekend with all those incredible games on the slate, both Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday as well. So we got a lot to talk about, a lot of topics here, and we are happy to be here with you to break down all of the things that have happened this week in the wide world of sports. Now, Godzilla Wins and all its subsidiaries are for entertainment purposes only. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537 in Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, Nebraska, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 800-327-5050. Visit gamblinghelpline-ma.org in Massachusetts. Call 877-G-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-3669 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-522-4700 in Kansas, New Hampshire, 888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org in Connecticut, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, or visit opgr.org in Oregon. Dan, great to see you. Looks like it's just us two for the moment. My father is in Iowa on the campaign trail as the primaries heat up. So I imagine he'll join us, but sometimes when he's on the bus.
Primaries heating up, bus probably frozen.
Mm-hmm. I know it's cold there.
I sure do not miss those winters in Iowa. Yeah,
no, I can't imagine. He shared some pictures this week. I mean, the snow looks pretty incredible. And, yeah, I think they basically live on the bus, so trying to find reliable Wi-Fi for this type of thing and then warming up the bus, it's got to be rough. So I'm sure he'll join us.
Like single digits right now.
Yeah, and it's about to get colder. I mean, there's a cold front sweeping through.
Yep, that's going to be fun for the Dolphins.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that because I think we all have some thoughts on how the Dolphins can fare in that weather. Sometimes you always forget Missouri is that gets that cold. I mean, it's in the middle of the country, but I don't know. I always think of Kansas City is fairly warm, but man, it can get really rough.
I spent 4 years in Missouri in college. I do not think of Missouri as warm.
No, and I mean that's kind of a misconception that I have.
The
not
wind
exactly
wind
New
just
Mexico.
cuts across the state. It's not pleasant in December through February.
And that'll be a really fun game to look at. There's a couple that I'm really excited about. Maybe some less so than others, but we'll get to the NFL with James. At the top of the hour.
I mean,
and
this sports zone schedule is so loaded that there's a tennis Grand Slam going on right now, and we don't even have time to mention it beyond a brief minute.
Yeah, I know. This is it's one of those times in sports. There's only really 1 month that's a serious lull in sports, basically July, and even July, if you depending on the sports you like,
Euros.
yeah, you can get all the Euro sports. But January is a
Slovakia
pretty
qualified. We got soccer.
always
Hey,
got
what
soccer.
about baseball? We're right in the middle of baseball season.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but the All-Star break kind of screws up the calendar in July. So
Yeah, but then you got the draft.
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's true. So, welcome, Dan. Welcome, Dad. Dad, before we get started, and we were just talking about how it's probably about 2 degrees in Iowa right now, and you probably had to warm up the bus, and the Wi-Fi, I'm sure, is sketchy. But tell us a little bit before we get it, because we got to talk about Saban. I mean, we're all chomping on the bit for that. Tell us about DraftKings and how people this weekend during this wild card weekend can get involved in the greatest promo code in the history of promo codes.
Well, listen, promo code is Godzilla, but I mean, I'm freezing my butt here. It is right now. When I got in this thing, it's -1. That's without the wind chill factor. We've had
About
the biggest
81
storm
degrees
here.
warmer here.
I know, right? We've got the biggest blizzard here in 75 years, and everything has been canceled. Caucus Day, which is Monday. I don't want to get into politics, but it's going to be with -5 with a wind chill of -20. I don't even know how does that even exist? How do you get to -20? I mean, forget it. So it's very, very cold. That's why I got my hat on here and I'm ready to go. But the only thing that's going to get us through this cold in the next 2 days is football, baby. Football. You got all these playoff games. Something going to be a lot of fun. I got to tell you, Dan and Jack, I love the expanded format. I really do. I love the way it's set up now, where only the top 2 teams in each league gets the 1 week bye, and everybody else is just playing for stuff. So it's really fun. A lot of great matchups. The best way to have a lot of fun is just go to DraftKings.com. This is so easy. Of course, I'm in Iowa. It's legal here. There's so many states it's legal now. We're looking at buying some stations in New Hampshire. We just bought 3 in West Virginia. It's legal there. So this is a lot of fun. So all you got to do is go to DraftKings.com and download the free DraftKings app. Put a phone, your Android or your iPhone, your tablet. Download their app. Put in $5. I mean, come on. I tipped my maid that's going to clean the room today $10, right? Because it's so cold out. So I just put $10 on the bet. You got $5. I mean, you can't get a cup of coffee at Krispy Kreme for under $5. Put $5 in, make a bet today. Any of the games, anything you want, over underline. You're going to get $200 in free bets instantly, right into your account. Boom, done. You can't beat this deal. And then you can play on house money for the entire weekend. Maybe you win, maybe you don't. But it's their money, and you got to have a lot of fun. You got all kinds of bonuses and stuff. It really is the best sportsbook app. That's why I love DraftKings. I'm a big fan of it. Just go to DraftKings.com, download the app, put in $5. Now, the most important thing is put in promo code Godzilla. Promo code Godzilla. You don't even have to have a Titans hat like me. Promo code Godzilla, and boom, you're going to get $200 instantly in free bets. Now, if you have a gambling problem, or you know someone in your family or friends who do, just call the Gambling Problem Helpline, 888-532-3500. DraftKings.com. Promo code Godzilla.
Now, Dan, this week, one of the biggest news stories is Nick Saban's retirement. 16 seasons with Alabama, I believe. 6 national championships, 1 national championship with LSU, 26 total losses in college football. It was like 9 total losses in the SEC, something crazy like that. Bunch of SEC championships. Seems like the game might be getting away from him as far as the NIL and stuff like that. That seems to indicate why he retired. Of course, Belichick and the Patriots. We'll talk about that at the top of the hour. Moving on, Pete Carroll retiring. So some of these legendary coaches getting older, starting to hang it up. Alabama swiftly replaces Saban with Kalen DeBoer of Washington, who took the Huskies to the national championship and then lost to Michigan in what was not really a close game, but he accepts the job probably within 48 hours of the Saban retirement. So, Dan, want to get your thoughts here on both Saban's retirement as maybe the greatest college football coach of all time, and the hire of Kalen DeBoer, which I think we could talk about that for a while as far as what we can expect in his success at Alabama.
Yeah, so I mean, Saban has just been quite simply the greatest coach of the past, at least the past 25 years in college football, and he's certainly in the conversation as possibly the greatest coach shown to ever do it. And to consistently win everywhere that he's been, I mean, the man never once had a losing season, even when he was at Michigan State, which is not an easy place to win by any means.
What about the Dolphins?
He only had one losing season at the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean,
he only
coached them 2 years, and his losing season was 7-9. But at the college level, he never failed to win more than at least half of his games. So in Toledo, he spent one season there. He won a MAC title. So he's won everywhere he's been, and the success he's had in the SEC is just unreal. I mean, the SEC bias is ridiculous. There's no questioning that. But it's ridiculous because of just how dominant Alabama has been on a national level. And a lot of that was because Saban kept adapting to whatever he needed to do. Alabama, the way that they played a decade ago is not the way that they have been winning games now. Saban has changed whatever he's needed to in order to keep up. He kept bringing in coaches who had failed somewhere else because he saw that they still had something to offer on him that could give a fresh perspective. And Alabama just kept staying ahead of the curve. And I honestly wonder how Kalen DeBoer is going to manage being the guy following the guy, because he's a great coach, no question, but there's only one Nick Saban, and DeBoer has never coached in the Southeast. I mean, it's tough when you go from one region to another and you've had all your success in one part of the country. So, I mean, it's a risk that DeBoer has to take because there are only so many jobs like Alabama. And if he fails in Tuscaloosa, I'm sure that California or Oregon State or somewhere else on the West Coast would be happy to take him after the fact. But I think he's got a good chance to have success there.
Well, Dan, I think you bring up a great point of recruiting, right? Because if you spend your whole life, in basically the West and the Pacific Northwest, et cetera, now you're going to the South, Saban, you've got to think about the relationships he's built over the years in the South with families and friends and high school coaches. Hey, Nate, I mean, it goes deep. I mean, that's why you have these great recruiting classes, and you get a reputation, cousins, aunts, uncles, friends, sisters, brothers, you get all that. Well, the guy from Washington comes in, he doesn't know anybody, he's never been there. It's very difficult to do, and that's why it's going to be hard for DeBoer to replace Saban. But it's kind of like Bear Bryant. Who wants to follow him, right? Who wanted to follow Lombardi at Green Bay? What was that, Dan Devine? I mean, it's a losing proposition.
There was another coach after it, in between them, but yeah,
it's something like I kid. All I remember is Dandy Don didn't do very well, but it's tough to follow these great coaches with these tremendous pedigrees in history. Look at the guy at Duke in basketball following Coach
Shire.
K. Yeah, it's just very difficult to do. But look, the guy did a great job at Washington. I bet Washington. 5 minutes into the game, I knew I lost my bet. 5 minutes, I knew it was over. I mean, they were just bigger, stronger, better. And so it is what it is. But I think the guys, you got to take it if you're him. Right, guys? You got to take it. But I think he's got a tough road to hoe. And I think the big winner is Lane Kiffin. This guy, I mean, God is smiling on Lane once again. He basically becomes now the king of the South. He's got the tenure, he's got the relationships. He just got a couple good players. He had that big ball win. So I think Lane Kiffin is the big winner here.
I'm going to disagree on that one. I'm going to say the big winner is Dan Lanning, because the one team that Oregon hasn't been able to beat in Dan Lanning's 2 years in Eugene has been Washington. He's 0-3 against Kalen DeBoer, and now DeBoer is gone. So Dan Lanning is moving into the Big Ten with a stacked Oregon program, Washington is not going to be what it was under DeBoer. I think Oregon is a huge winner here.
I think most of these guys who were on the list and passed on this job are winners. I don't envy anyone who has to follow in the footsteps of Nick Saban. Alabama's fan base is pretty unreasonable at times. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but they can be a bit exacting in their expectations. And I think DeBoer's going to be on a short leash. Norvell, Sarkisian, Kiffin, Lanning, all names that sort of floated around, Dabo Swinney as well. I think a lot of those guys, I mean, like Lanning coming out so quickly and just being like, no, and Norvell kind of doing the same thing. Sarkisian didn't seem interested. Kiffin made it pretty apparent pretty early. Like Greg McElroy 2 days ago went on his podcast, I think, and said Kiffin's out. I mean, a lot of these guys made it pretty obvious that they just weren't interested in the position. And I think the reason is that the next couple years, I'm not sure, like Saban can win with that roster, but I'm not sure everyone else can. The relationship thing with DeBoer, I'm not as worried about because of the way that the game is now. He can always utilize his connections on the West Coast and in the transfer portal. Kiffin at Ole Miss recruits on the West Coast a lot. He's always in California. This is a new world. There's not as much of sitting in the living room in backwoods Louisiana, praying with the family about the right decision. I mean, a lot of it is social media now. These kids in the NIL money, I mean, they think differently, I think, than recruiting 15 years ago. But it is amazing how much Saban has just progressed over the years and evolved. That, like Dan was saying, that offense 10, 15 years ago was nothing like it is now. And he's been able to reinvent that program for years and years and years. And that's what it takes to have sustained success. Nate, I want to bring you in because, I don't think you and I agree on this point. I have a lot of friends in Alabama who are pretty well connected in Tuscaloosa or just in the state of Alabama. And the feeling here is that what they wanted in a coach was a little bit of a lapdog and somebody who could be a sacrificial lamb until the true ascendant of the crown emerges, whenever that is, in the next couple of years, because following Nick Saban is just too difficult, that people weren't interested in the job in the way that they will be. So I know, Nate, that you don't exactly agree, and you think, there's no reason that they need to be DeBoer needs to be a sacrificial lamb in any sort of way.
I mean, there's no reason, there's no need for him to be a sacrificial lamb just because they have so many resources, right? And to speak to you guys' point earlier, like it's not just hard following Nick Saban at Alabama. It's hard coaching at any major Power 5 conference school, regardless of whether they've been good in the last 15 years or not. Like, it's hard for guys to go to A&M and win. It's hard for guys to go to UT and win. It's hard for guys to go to Florida State and win. Like, all those programs have presented a lot of challenges, and they're all, proud programs with, Hall of Fame coaches with Mac Brown and Bobby Bowden and so forth. So, I mean, I don't think that DeBoer's a sacrificial lamb. I mean, look at what he did in Washington with a lot less than what he'll get at Alabama. Like, he'll be fine. It's just the expectation that, you're going to go win 11, 12 games for the next 10 or 15 years that's not reasonable for anyone. Like, if it makes them feel better that this is just their, placeholder, fine. But, there aren't a lot of Nick Sabans in the world. Like, you might have a placeholder for 15, 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, if you're Brian Kelly, you got to be excited. If you're Lane Kiffin, you got to be excited. I don't know how Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State feels. I don't really care. But if you're a couple of those guys, you got to be pumped. Obviously, Kirby Smart probably expects to now run the SEC for the rest of his life, which he might be able to do. But we'll see. As an Ole Miss fan, I mean, I loved watching Saban. I got to see him coach on the sidelines a bunch. I went to a lot of games in Tuscaloosa when I went to Ole Miss when I was an undergrad. That environment is incredible. I've seen, some of their greatest teams on the field. And so I'm sad to see a legend in the South leave us, but it'll be interesting as an Ole Miss fan to see what happens next. I think Auburn with Hugh Freeze is going to make a lot of noise as well. I'm not a huge Hugh Freeze guy, but he is a good coach, and he does tend to build good programs. So we'll see. And DeBoer's going to be competitive probably from the start at Alabama.
Were you guys surprised at how quickly this decision was made?
No,
not at all.
Not really.
No. I think it had to be made quickly. I think it's made less quickly when you're a smaller program and you're trying to find the right fit and get the right person. But when you're Alabama, you probably already have a list, right? You know Saban's retiring. You have a list, and you start calling the names. So you call Dabo Swinney first, and he says, no. Jesus says I need to be in Clemson or whatever. And then you call Mike Norvell, and he says no. And you just call down the list until somebody jumps at the opportunity. These are the best coaches in the country. They don't.
And nobody's like skipping that call. Nobody's like screening and being like, I'm going to see if there's something better that comes along.
I have to say, if Dabo Swinney was the first name called, then that is just malpractice on the part of Alabama's athletic department, because I think Dabo Swinney is in trouble on this new world.
Yeah,
just to embrace the transfer portal.
Yeah, I do too. And the thing with Swinney is he is a door-to-door salesman. Like, he needs to be in living rooms. That's how he recruits. And he doesn't do well in this sort of new environment. And I think they wanted someone, who has done well. DeBoer definitely has shown that. So, I think there's going to be somewhat of a shakeup, but Alabama's still going to be Alabama. I don't think these are the Mike Shula days. Like, I don't think the program's going to unravel. After what Saban built, it'll be fine. And Saban didn't leave under suspicion of sanctions and stuff. It's not like Michigan, who that program was down and Harbaugh took him forever to build it back up, or it felt like forever. Ryan Day at Ohio State has had, pretty sustained success, but left under the cloud of Urban Meyer. USC has never been the same since Pete Carroll left, but a lot of those programs, there's a cloud over them. When it come to, it didn't exactly.
That's a really good argument. That's a really good point, Jack, that I'm not sure anybody really thought about, but you're right. I mean, he went out because he couldn't get a touchdown. I mean, his last play was tying a semifinal game in overtime at the 3-yard line. So you're right. I mean, he went out a winner, basically, and a great winner, and no scandals and no sanctions and no, forced out or grumbling. He just said, hey, I'm done. Time to spend time with my family. I'm 72 and I'm out of here. Do you guys expect him to reemerge somewhere in the next 12 months?
College game day. I think he's going to replace Corso at College game day. That's kind of the rumor.
Right.
That would make a lot of sense.
I don't think he's got the personality for it. I mean, he certainly has the football knowledge for it, but I don't think he's got a great personality to be in that kind of role.
Yeah, he can turn
Urban Meyer. Fox Sports paid him a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's true.
I don't know. Urban Meyer, I feel like, has a bit more fun in his personality.
I don't know if we can see it on TV.
Yeah, bit of a free spirit.
No, you see
I don't know, Nate. I never
watch
watch college football pregame shows because I'm always watching the Bundesliga when they're on.
That's right. I don't think
you got to find a hobby, dude.
That is his hobby.
What are you talking about?
So, Dad, before we move on, I do want to talk about the national championship before we move on, Dad. But if you could tell our listeners a little bit about Healthy Cell and how you get such a great night's sleep, especially out there in Iowa where it's about -2 degrees and you're traveling on all these hotels, you got to get a good night's sleep.
I brought extra. I got my whole team on it now. Larry, our driver, Wadia, who's with us, helping us out here in Iowa, Bowserman, who's Christine Bowserman, my political director. They get out here, they're all complaining, you can't sleep, it's the time change, it's cold. So I gave them all, I brought an extra box. I handed all this REM sleep out. I'm like, 15 minutes before you go to bed, get bed early, because, we're getting up here at 3 a.m. Central. So, and it's cold. You got to get a good 7-8 hours or you can't function in this weather. So I gave them all that. As soon as we got here Monday, I said, try these. I gave them all 7, a week supply. All of them are telling me, wow, this is the best thing ever. If you want to get a good night's sleep and feel good, I took mine last night. I got 8.5 hours last night, so I feel like a new man, right? But it's just tremendous. You take it 15 minutes before you go to bed. I'd show it to you on Get It Live, but I want to take my hands out of my pockets. It's too cold here until this thing heats up. And you take it 15 minutes before you go to bed, and you're going to sleep like a baby and jump out of bed. And then you look like me, fresh as a daisy every day. All you got to do is go to healthycell.com, healthycell.com/Godzilla, promo code Godzilla. You're going to get 20% off your first order. Go ahead and order a 3-month supply. And this thing is a game changer for your life, because you're going to feel better. You're going to look better. You're going to have more energy, because you're going to get that good night's sleep, get in those deep sleep. In fact, Larry, my driver, was telling me, I never dream. And since I've been taking this stuff, I'm dreaming every night like a crazy man. Don't remember them, but I'm dreaming. And I'm like, well, that's a good thing. I mean, that's what you need to do. You get in that, when you dream, you're in the final stages of sleep, or the deepest stages. It's going to rejuvenate your body. I'm not a sleep expert, but I do get up every day at 3 a.m. and I look fresh as a daisy. I don't know what else to say. I'm out here in the snow, and everybody's saying, how you're so energetic. REM sleep, baby. healthycell.com/Godzilla. Promo code Godzilla, 20% off your first order. Get yourself some REM sleep today.
So the college football playoff on Monday was not nearly as close or exciting as the two games that led up to the playoff. Nate, I want to start with you, because even though on the show you directed everyone towards the Washington spread, you got cold feet and went with the Wolverines there. I think ultimately that was your pick near the end, and that happens as you get closer to the game. We only do this show once a week, so I think a lot of us were on Washington for this because the spread seemed too large, and Michigan just came out and was too physical. They just sort of dominated. They flustered Penix. Their defense is really good, and as you had mentioned, and we had both, I think both you and Dan had mentioned this on the show, is Washington's run defense is just atrocious. And Michigan was able to kind of just run all over them, especially in the first quarter. Then they kind of made some adjustments, but just couldn't score. So is this, Nate, is Michigan now vindicated from all the stuff that happened? And are they going to continue with this amount of success, even if Harbaugh leaves, which it seems likely he will?
I think vindicated. I mean, maybe. I don't know. The scandal just seemed like kind of like a non-issue after the first couple of weeks, the sign stealing stuff. So, I think that the bigger picture is just Jim Harbaugh being sort of vindicated, because for so long he was just the guy that consistently put a great product out on the field that just couldn't really get over the hump. And now that he finally has, it's like, okay, what else is he going to do? I think he probably goes to the NFL, but. So, they're not going to have the same success without him. It looks like he's probably going to go, and he's just too hard of a guy to replace. He's never lost anywhere he's ever been. But in terms of the game, yeah, it went, we talked about it on the show, and I was still sort of feeling the Husky Mania vibes. And then you asked me to do the sort of staff picks column and write my final pick for, posterity in print, and I took Michigan. Yeah, I just thought that Michigan would just be able to run the ball. The knock on Michigan was if you force them to pass, they have trouble. Washington never forced them to pass. That was just the bottom line.
And they did have trouble passing the ball. Washington's secondary is pretty good. So when they were able to put more in the box and respond, they did slow the Michigan defense or offense down. But Dad, the Washington offense, which we all lauded as this high-flying offense, was continually frustrated. They couldn't score.
Well, number one, the game sucked. That's number one, because only because the expectations of the first two games, we had a different set of expectations. But look, I think if these teams played each other 10 times, Michigan wins nine or 10 of these games. They were just a better football team, and I really thought that, when I think Washington got a touchdown or something, or the field goal, it was 17-10. They were getting the ball back coming in the second half. I'm like, okay, let's see what they do first drive. Because if they go down and get a touchdown, tie this game, okay, this might actually turn into something. Of course, they couldn't do that. And I think I agree with Nate. He nailed it. He said, Washington can't stop the run. That's going to turn this game. And he was right. Nate, you absolutely nailed that in your column. 100% nailed it. So I congratulate you for that. But I really thought Penix would be able to move the ball better than he did. A couple passes he just missed. But look, that Michigan defense is real. We've been saying it all season. And I was kind of mad at myself because I picked them the first college show we had to win the championship, and then I abandoned them the final game like an idiot. But that's what happens when you do stupid things. But look, they were just a better team. Their defense was for real, and a lot of people think Harbaugh out coached the guy in Washington that's going to Alabama. I just think he had better personnel. Michigan deserved that victory. They deserve to be national champions.
Dan, if Harbaugh leaves, which, I mean, maybe it's likely, maybe this is just speculation, but I think he probably does leave, is Michigan able to bounce back in the same way we think Alabama probably will? You know, Michigan has always been frustrating from a coaching search perspective because they don't want to hire anyone who didn't go to Michigan, which limits their ability in the pool sometimes. But I don't know if they're still interested in that, but that's what they've been doing forever. This is their first national championship since, I believe, 1997 with Lloyd. What was it?
Lloyd Carr. Yeah.
Lloyd Carr. Can't spell Lloyd without two L's. So they used to say in Ann Arbor. So Dan, like, if Harbaugh leaves, is Michigan still the king of the Big Ten, especially with the expansion?
I mean, it's tough to say. It depends greatly on who Michigan hires, because Michigan has botched this search before. We saw how. You're wearing the West Virginia hoodie. We saw how.
Rich Rod, baby.
Two different paths, taking a West Virginia coach and transplanting him to Ann Arbor. Michigan football tried it with Rich Rodriguez, and it failed miserably. Michigan basketball tried it with John Beilein, and it worked out better than anyone could have hoped. So it all just depends on who Michigan brings in and whether they can sustain the culture that Harbaugh's resurrected. Because I gotta say, right now, it looks like Oregon might be the king of the Big Ten. Because I think Ohio State, Ryan Day just cannot get that Ohio State fan base off his back, because he's had so much trouble figuring out Michigan, and it's not going to get any easier there. So with what Oregon has coming back, I think it's got to be the Ducks, unless Michigan makes a really strong hire here.
I just love that statement. Oregon is the new king of the Big Ten.
I know.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. It was like king of the Big Ten. Like, this is like a new kingdom. Like, we don't know who's the king here now anymore. Like, this is just anarchy.
Yeah. And, we'll see. The SEC, of course, is expanding too. So Texas, with Steve Sarkisian's now back in the SEC, and we'll see how Texas can fare against some competition that I might argue during the season is a little bit more difficult than some stuff they face in the Big 12. But, you still.
And speaking of the Big 12, Arizona might be the new team to beat there.
Yeah. That's, that I can kind of stomach. I always think of the Big 12 as like a little bit, some West out. I know it's not usually the case, but the idea that Oregon's could win the Big 10, and then you're like, oh yeah, Big 10 championship, Oregon. And then like the Rose Bowl makes no sense to me in that, right? Because it's like, it's supposed to be Pac-12 and Big 10, but there's no Pac-12 anymore. So I don't know how but then maybe it's still Oregon. But maybe it's two former Pac-12 teams. Who knows? So it's definitely a new world, and probably one that Nick Saban didn't want any part of. I think if I was him, I'd just be like, look, guys, this is too confusing. I'm just going to go on the boat with Miss Terry. I think I'll be fine. But we'll see. Now, Nate, we're going to transition here to golf just for a second, because you're our resident golf guy, golf degenerate. In so many ways, it's hard to even paint a clear picture to the audience of your golf habits. So both on the course and off. So I want to talk just for a very quick second about the Sony, which is going on right now, and your favorite golfer, a man named Chan Kim, who you've been following this guy's career since before he was on the PGA Tour. So maybe just a little hashtag ChanCam update on what's going on with our Chanimal, Chan Kim, and how the Sony Open's going for your betting card.
Yeah, so Chan the Man is a guy that when we were doing the golf podcast last year, Chan had full status on the Korn Ferry Tour, which is like the lower status, and we basically followed him from more or less obscurity, sort of mid 40s on their points list until he won a few tournaments late in the season and earned his PGA Tour card. And now it's like, I've been here for the whole journey. I mean, I remember betting on him at the US Open like 4 years ago, and he was like 750 to 1. Was that 4 or 5 years ago, Jack? That's when we started this whole thing.
Yeah.
And we've watched his whole career just ascending from the Japanese tour. He's like 34 now. He's a rookie on tour. And I could not be more excited. I felt like a family member when he got his PGA Tour card a couple months ago. He missed the cut this week.
Oh, no.
You know, it was a second round 64. We couldn't overcome those first round jitters 75. So missed the cut. But, you know, overall the golf bets could have gone a lot worse this week. Kurt Kitayama shot 62 yesterday to get me right back in the hunt in the Wahoo. So he's tied for fourth. He's one shot back off the lead. So we still got a little bit of a sweat. But yeah, thank God golf is back. This is my joke.
Dan, you might now you're right next to the course there in Oahu. I know you don't follow golf too closely, but maybe you can give us a little weather check, or maybe I'd recommend maybe trying to find some tickets and walking around Saturday, Sunday. If it's nice out, it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm going to be spending Saturday watching another Hawaii basketball game, but we'll see what Sunday looks like. But actually, it has not really been good golf weather here. Like earlier this week, it's been really windy. It rained pretty good throughout the day today. So yeah, I honestly wonder what the conditions have been like for these golfers, because it has not really been all that pleasant. I mean, it's certainly much more pleasant than what John's dealing with, but it's still not ideal here.
These guys at this time of the year are used to playing in wind and some like sort of random rain. They end up in island courses because it's too cold to play a lot of other places, or Southern California, or the very tip of Florida, and the wind is just nuts in the winter in those places for a lot of times. So a lot of times when you're looking at these tournaments early in the year for golf, you're just like, okay, who's a scrappy golfer, and who plays well in the wind, who can be hot on the putting green, because a lot of times if you're interested in handicapping golf with the conditions like this, you just got to get to the green and then maybe make your money there. So we'll see, but early on in the season we'll just do some more Chan Cam updates, because that's Nate's favorite golfer, and we wouldn't be able to do it without Chan Kim. He's the inspiration for our whole love of sports here, just a man of the people. Now, Dad, I know you got up a minute ago to grab some Beard Vet coffee. I just want to talk a minute about how incredible Beard Vet coffee has been, both as a sponsor of our show and just the product that they offer. This is some of the best coffee on the market. I got it right here in my Beard Vet cup. Got the K cups that you sent me, still working through those. Just some excellent coffee. You go to beardvet.com. You can find the K cups. You can find the whole bean or the ground. The coffee is reasonably priced, and with the promo code Godzilla, you can get 10% off your coffee needs. Now, once you order this coffee, it shows up at your door, hand to God, 2 days later. Logistically, the company's just incredible at getting the stuff out. They're a great company. They also have a bunch of products for your beard, if you have a beard like I do, some of the beard tinctures, so you can get both your coffee needs and your beard needs. That I don't know if you want to say anything else about beardvet.com, but you go to beardvet.com, promo code Godzilla, get all your coffee needs there.
Listen, I love my Beard Vet. Right now, though, guess what? I don't have any Beard Vet coffee. We got plenty of Beard Vet coffee. So, I thought about that. We thought about this the other day. We said, at night we better put we have this humongous coffee maker. I mean, you're on this thing. You're getting here at 4 a.m. It's freezing. First thing I bought was the biggest, best coffee pot in the world, right? So it's got Keurig, it's got the whole thing going. You can grind the beans in it. This thing is like the primo. Well, we just kind of forgot to bring it in last night. Just forgot. It was fine all week. Well, it's so cold last night here in our mega bus that the water in it and everything in the little things that go down has frozen. So now we can't get it to work. So I'm stuck here until we figure this out with no coffee. But just if you have an RV and if you're in the winter and it's 0 degrees, you can't let that thing sit, because it got completely frozen and the water was, I guess, in the little things that go into the cup. and so we can't get it to work. So my bad. We're gonna have to figure that out today if we can get out of here. Snowed in, no coffee, frozen.
No coffee, snowed in. That's not the place you want to be.
It's
This
like-
is why.
It's like a nightmare.
This is why I live in Mississippi. And to be honest with you, Mississippi is expecting some winter mix here in the next couple of days. So you just
Still
can't
line
get
from
away.
Frank Gifford at the Ice Bowl. John's going to end up taking a bite of Beard Vet coffee later today.
Yeah, there you go. Hey,
Hopefully, I'm thinking. I'm just hoping that it's just going to thaw, right, and then it'll be fine. But we didn't take. I forgot to take the water out of the carafe, and so that whole thing was just frozen solid. And we just
Yeah.
didn't think about it. It's like, well, just whatever. And but the actual water that we have, we thought about that. So we put that. So get this: it's so cold, you put the water in the refrigerator so it doesn't freeze at night. That's how cold it is. Think about that. Think about that one.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, you're on the bus there. It's not insulated. So, okay, we're gonna move on to a little bit of hockey talk. This is my new favorite segment that we do with my dad and Dan. Mostly because I have, known my father my entire life and have never known him to be a hockey man, neither in the picking sports area, the betting world, or just as a casual fan. Then all of a sudden he moves to Pittsburgh. Now he's a Penguins fan. He's watching hockey every night. So, Dan, we'll start with you. If you got some hockey plays for this weekend that you can recommend to our listeners, then we'll go to Dad.
Yeah, so, all right. If Ottawa doesn't win this one, then it's just not going to happen for a while because we're finally home and we're facing the Sharks. And the Sharks are about the only team that's doing worse than we are. So it's not going to be pretty, but the Senators should get this one figured out. So I'm taking Ottawa on the puck line because I've got to get some value here because Ottawa, despite the fact that we've lost 5 in a row after the Western Canada swing and Buffalo, were I think minus 230 going into this one because San Jose is just that bad. So I think that one's one where we end up coming out with a solid win. Although the other way to get some value is to just take the Senators on the money line and pair them with the Jets because Philadelphia is on the second night of a back-to-back playing Minnesota the night before. The Flyers actually came through for me nicely yesterday because I took them team total over 3.5, and they ended up winning that one 4-3 in overtime. So I'm thinking the Flyers might have some dead legs going from Minneapolis to Winnipeg, and the Jets, as John well knows, have been so strong all year on defense. So I think that's probably the strongest play on to make is pair the Jets and the Senators on the money line, get some plus money on that parlay. So I'm also gonna go with the Rangers to knock off the Capitals, and I think I'm gonna take Vancouver against Buffalo because the Canucks, I thought they were going to mail in that game with the Rangers earlier in the week on the New York swing. They didn't. They keep proving me wrong. They're 30-12 this year on the puck line, and they've just dominated on the road. So I really like Vancouver in that matchup. And Washington just not impressing me. The Rangers look like the top team in the Metro, although Carolina might have something to say about that. But I like the Rangers to take that game in D.C.
Now, Dad, you're on the Godzilla Wins Daily Picks. And if you're listening, go to GodzillaWins.com. Click up there at the top left-hand corner. You'll see the Daily Picks page there. Or you can just Google Godzilla Wins Staff Daily Picks, and you'll see that all of our staff picks. Now, Dad, you're 17-16 in your NHL picks. Down some units, but respectable in the record there with your percentage. You're also 7-3 in your recent picks, so been doing pretty well. Although I know you've been in Iowa, so you haven't been able to watch as much this weekend. I'm sure you'll watch some, but looks like you're pretty locked in for the NHL though. So give us some of your picks this weekend.
Well, listen, I've never really followed hockey. I've never followed the NHL. I don't follow pro basketball anymore for a number of reasons. That's just my thing. I'm not going to get into it. Hate it. So I don't really deal with it. So, but I fell in love with hockey. I went to a Penguins game. It was only the second hockey game I'd ever been to in my life. The first one, I was like 21 years old in Long Island. I think I saw an Islanders game. I didn't really remember it other than it was kind of fun being there. But, I'm in Pittsburgh. Penguins are on every night. They're fun to watch. You read about them in the Pittsburgh. I subscribe to the Pittsburgh paper, so I know what's going on locally on online. So you get the Penguins coverage. So it's kind of fun. And the thing I like hockey, it's like baseball, because in baseball I just bet trends and streaks, and that's how it's very tough to win in baseball. That's how I survive betting it, is just trends and streaks. And you kind of find the same thing with hockey, but it's kind of fascinating if you get into it. And because I've not followed it, I have no biases. Like baseball, I have biases. There's, the majority of teams I hate. There's managers I hate. There's players I hate. So you get all that going. In hockey, I don't have any of that. It's just like, okay, well, who am I going to bet tonight? But I'm with Dan here on almost everything. Dan, I don't know. You would think Dan and I collaborated before this show. I bet New York over Vancouver the other night. I forgot to put it on my daily picks. I did bet the game. I lost. I thought for sure, Dan, that Vancouver would let down. Every time you look at this team, you shake your head. How are they winning? But they keep winning. I mean, so yeah. I mean, they're good. Winnipeg, I think, is the best team in the NHL. I love watching that defense. They're so fast. When sometimes I get to turn them on because I bought that NHL package. So that's kind of fun at home. I'm not there. But tonight, I like the Rangers on the road. I think they bounce back. Washington is horrible. That's minus 165. I'm going with Vancouver again. I'm going to keep betting them now until they lose, right? So I like Vancouver minus 150 in Buffalo. Buffalo's 18-20. They're okay, but Vancouver just keep winning. I love your pick with the Senators here, and you're right, because the only team worse than them is San Jose.
Maybe the Ducks, but that's about it.
I kind of like them at home, but I really don't want to lay a goal and a half, and I don't want to lay minus 240. So I don't know about that. I just don't want to lay a goal and a half. But the other team I love is Toronto. I can't believe they're only minus 115. This is another team. Yeah, they're the history of a bunch of whiners and stuff, but there's another team they just keep winning, right? So those are the two games, 3 games I like. Winnipeg over the Fly. I'm not a Philadelphia believer, so I like Winnipeg tonight. If I can get a team at home that I think is going to win, I got the same philosophy in baseball. I got no problem laying 180, 85, 190. I do it all the time. I have no problem with so I like Winnipeg tonight, minus 185 money line. I love the Rangers on the road in Washington, minus 165. And I also like Vancouver, minus 150. And I'm going to go with the Leafs, minus 115. So I got 4 favorites. You got to win 3 of them, right? In order to make money, you got to win 3 of the 4, or you lose on the lines. But I think we're going to do good. I can't bet the Senators though, minus 240. And I'm not going to lay 1.5. But I do think they're
I don't
going
blame you.
So, the idea here is to get to some college basketball. But first, I think looks like Dan and Nate are having a side conversation about some Premier League lines. So, why don't we just bring this into the fold? We got a little bit of time. This is not, college football season over. We got a lot of opportunity. So, Dan, why don't we start? You are probably in America, one of the most dedicated just European soccer fans that I know. I mean, I know a lot of European soccer fans, but no one who sort of runs the table of the leagues. The Bundesliga is a bit obscure for American soccer fans. I'm not completely, but a little bit. I know you guys are talking a little Premier League, so why don't we just bring this into the conversation, Dan? Are there some Premier League
in the chat?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
So-
we switched over to the Bundesliga because that's going to get kicked off here shortly. So, yeah, the bet that Nate and I were just talking about was Augsburg against Bayer Leverkusen. And Augsburg has given Leverkusen some trouble in recent years. Last year, Leverkusen really struggled at the start of the season, and Augsburg whacked them 3-0 in that match. And I believe that Augsburg has actually taken maximum points in their past 2 of their past 3 home matches, and they drew their other home match with Borussia Dortmund. So they're playing really well at home right now, and I think that Nate's play of Augsburg plus a goal and a half has a lot of value here.
Okay. So Nate, when did your love for the Premier League and soccer start? Were you trying to find answers at the bottom of a bottle of bourbon at 3 a.m. and the game was on? Like, what's going on?
Oh, we just got an infusion after the NFL season stopped, man. The account's looking fat. It's time to put this money to work.
There you go.
Oh, so a good NFL season leads to some new horizons.
4:30 in the morning to sweat.
Hey,
Chelsea.
I mean, if you can hit some of these soccer bets, because you can get some really good value on some of these soccer plays. Like another play that I actually like in that Augsburg Leverkusen match is Leverkusen to win and both teams to score. So that's a play that almost always results in plus money because it's technically a parlay, but it's not something that people think of as a parlay because it's like with soccer matches, since the scores are so low, those both teams to score bets can really change the value of a match and really give you some plus money where you wouldn't otherwise find it. So yeah, I think that's one that makes a lot of sense because I think Augsburg will at least come out with a goal. Leverkusen has been the strongest team in the Bundesliga this year, so taking them to win makes a lot of sense, but a 2-1 score would cash that pretty nicely.
Yeah, so we used to cover a ton of soccer on the website. Yeah. We don't. Well,
I did with the Women's World Cup, and
yeah,
I had one stretch where I hit back-to-back correct scores actually.
Yeah, so that correct score thing is really where you can make you can win a lot.
Yeah.
I think on that stuff. I mean, we used to cover the Bundesliga, we used to cover Premier League. Our soccer writers just moved on to some other stuff. I'd love to, if you're listening and you write about soccer, let me know. I mean, we use Dan so much for everything else that he doesn't have as much of an opportunity to write about soccer. But I like covering it on the website because it is a popular sport. And it is an interesting sport to handicap that perfect score stuff. I mean, both of our writers and Dan as well. So all three have hit perfect scores before on the website. And I mean, that is the plus money on a perfect score is pretty incredible. And you don't have as much variation. I mean, it's soccer, so it's not going to be 7-2 that often. But if you can hit those perfect scores, you're in pretty good shape.
The best I've ever done with a correct score.
Can we stay on this topic and let me just ask a question?
Sure.
I played soccer in high school. Well, so many kids play soccer, right? I just played it to stay in shape. I was never really into it, but I played it in the fall because I didn't play football. But you got all these kids that play soccer. Soccer's big, these soccer tournaments all over the place. Why hasn't pro soccer in the U.S. caught on? Like it's got an audience, I guess. But I mean, has it?
Because MLS is poorly run. Like
say more, Dan.
I mean, MLS is now like it had been growing. They shoved it to Apple TV, so now most of the matches are behind a paywall. They are run differently from the rest of the world in that they don't have promotion and relegation, so you get a lot of meaningless matches at the end of the season. It's just run so much differently than the rest of the world. And then another thing that Taylor Twellman has touched on many times is the fact that in every other major sport, the best athletes in the world are in our country. And it does not work like that in soccer. The best athletes in the world in soccer are in the Premier League, the Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga. So the hardcore soccer fan is like, they might catch a few MLS matches here and there, but they want to see the biggest names and the best teams. And that means focusing on the European leagues because that's where all the money is. That's where the best players are. And it's widely accepted that for most American players, if you get really good, you're using MLS as kind of the AAA, like for baseball. You're trying to get that contract with a Premier League team, with a Bundesliga side to really get yourself up to that level of competition.
Now, I had a lot of friends in Atlanta who were big fans of the MLS team there for a while. I don't see as much of an interest in it right now as I did sort of pre-COVID. But they were really, that was a team that was very successful. I think European sports, it's like a novelty. Like we have MLS here, and you're right, not all the good players are there, but some people just like cheering for something that is so much of a novelty, but then has so much tradition across the Atlantic Ocean, whether it's in Germany or whether it's in Great Britain. And once you're starting out, you learn so much about the different cultures, and you get to pick a team that's not locked into your geographical area. So that's always kind of fun too, where you kind of just you find a team with cool jerseys or a team where you like the ownership. I know a lot of people in the Premier League do that. Kind of like F1. Just such a novel. I know Max Verstappen wins like every race, so it's not that interesting. I mean, I know people who watch F1 every weekend when it's going. I mean, they love it, but I don't really understand watching the same guy win every single race. But it's a novelty, right? I mean, it's European for the most part. They have races in America and in Mexico, stuff like that. But it's a European sport, and it's just kind of a novelty. So I think people just enjoy the novelty of having something in Europe to be interested in, to care about, where the best players are. So, I think we see that now. We got about 4 minutes to do some college basketball, and that's fine. We'll just kind of go around the horn. Sometimes college basketball is best when you only have 30 seconds to talk about a game. You can beat a dead horse a lot in college basketball by talking for 5 minutes on one game. Dan, we'll start with you because you're always locked into college hoops. We'll go around the horn. I know Dad's got some picks. I got one. Nate's got one. What do you like this weekend for the college hoops slate?
All right. So, I mean, I'm basically just going to read off my Substack here. So, the first thing I actually have up on Godzilla Wins, I'm taking Oklahoma plus the 7 at Kansas. I think that line's a little too high. I think Kansas is going to win the game. They've beaten Oklahoma 23 straight at Allen Fieldhouse, but the last 3 matchups have been decided by 4 points or less. So I like the Sooners to keep that one close. Next one, Penn State at Purdue. I'm taking Purdue minus the 18. Penn State already had matchup problems before they lost most of their team to either graduation or Notre Dame, and Purdue is every bit as good as it was last year. I think Zach Edey and the guards dominate this game, so I think this one gets really ugly. Wake Forest hosting Virginia. Wake minus the 5.5. Virginia is garbage on the road. Their closest in a true road game has been a 16-point defeat. So Duke hosting Georgia Tech. I think Duke gets revenge for earlier in the season. Duke covering the 17.5. It's a big number, but Georgia Tech has played so poorly ever since the Diamond Head. Loyola Marymount hosting Pacific. Loyola Marymount has lost 4 in a row, but they've all been to good teams. And Pacific is just a horrible basketball team. Any team that can lose to Portland by 14 is perfectly capable of losing to LMU by 15. And then we're going to finish this off here in the islands with Cal Riverside at Hawaii. Hawaii just is not shooting the basketball well at all right now. I'm taking the under 134.5.
Dad, got any picks?
No, I'm going to give my 30-second pick time up to say that it is absolutely outrageous that the Dolphins-Bills game is on paid paywall Peacock TV. This is going to be the most egregious thing I have ever seen I'm 65 years old. I've never seen this. You got a playoff game. I'm paying for all this stuff and streaming this, that, and the cables and now internet, and now I got to pay to watch a Dolphins-Bills game behind a freaking
Dolphins
paywall.
are playing the Chiefs.
I don't care what. This is outrageous beyond belief. There should be a public outrage.
I'm happy about it. I get to watch.
We got to pay for a playoff game.
What
We're paying for everything else.
Do you get
Outrageous.
DirecTV? Do you get DirecTV on the bus? Like, how were you planning on watching the game?
Yes, I have DirecTV stream. I pay $250 a month for a satellite internet on top of this RV, and now we're going to go sign up and pay another $5 for Peacock. Screw that.
To steal a line from you that you
pay-per-view
DraftKings.
Playoff games. Look, it's one thing you want to put a Thursday night game on pay-per-view. Who gives a crap? I'll go to bed. There's a damn playoff game in a paywall. Outrageous.
You say every week. Everyone's got $5 when you're doing the DraftKings.
I'm not doing it for that. Yeah, because then you can take that $5 and turn it into something.
And you
This
can
is
take
just
that $6.
they're just robbing you. They're
You can take that
stealing
to
your
college
money.
and check out the Premier League.
They're stealing your money.
Yeah, I don't know that.
NBC sucks. They should
Yeah.
be boycotted. Screw
I was-
them.
I mean,
Look,
I'm blacked out. I'm blacked out of the Packers Cowboys game. So
That's outrageous. I mean, these are playoff games, for God's sake.
I can't get Fox because I'm not paying for cable, but I'll pay $6 a month for Peacock, so I'm happy with this.
Okay, a couple things. One, Dad, this is not like a Senate hearing. You can't just yield your time to talk about a different topic. Like, I don't know where that came from. Like, I'll yield my time and use it to discuss something else. But
I'll use my
and
time
it was,
for myself to change the topic.
right, and it wasn't 30 seconds. It was the rest of the time we had for this hour. So no more college basketball picks. And then I think Dan's gotcha, because every week you say everybody's got $5. I spend $5 on Starbucks, so you could probably pay the $5 just to watch one game. Okay,
I'm not paying it.
Okay, well, you'll be sorely missed. Coming up, we're going to talk the NFL. James Tillman, Dan, you're welcome to stick around if you want to discuss the playoffs. Top of the hour here, James Tillman and Dan going to be joining us for the NFL wildcard. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Outrageous.
You're listening to Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network. For a deeper dive without the jive, visit the website of winners, GodzillaWins.com. Let's get back to the show with the guys in the know, John, Jack, and Nate. It's Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network.
Welcome back to the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show. We're here with James Tillman III, senior writer for GodzillaWins.com, as well as Dan Angel, Nate Perry, and my father, who is hot about the Peacock situation here, John Fredericks. Now, Dad, before we get into the coaching carousel in the NFL, I know you're going to be fired up about Vrabel as well. I'm going to let you talk a little bit about the MyPillow spot here while I go get some coffee. So go ahead and tell listeners how they can get involved in MyPillow.
Listen, first of all, good move. Good move with getting some Beard Vet coffee. My coffee pot froze here, so he's got a thought. We got to buy a new one. But one of the best things about going on these trips is it's outfitted with MyPillow. This is one of the best companies, guys, in the world, because they make the best products and they're so reasonably priced with promo code Godzilla. And right now, Mike Lindell, he owns MyPillow. He's extending free shipping through January for us. So, if you like, I just bought more stuff. Know what I just bought on MyPillow, right? This is kind of odd, right? But I bought the socks that don't go up the leg, like they just cut off at the ankle. And the reason is my calf's been hurting. And every time I take my socks off, I'm a guy, to take off your socks. And you have that indent around your ankle because of the elastic or whatever. So my son Joe told me, you got to get these ankle socks so they don't go up, so you don't cut your circulation off as you get older. So he came home for Christmas. So I went on MyPillow, and they were right there. I bought like 6 pair of them. That's all I wear now. They've got so much good stuff. I've got the MyPillow slippers on my RV right now. They're warmer than my shoes. It's like the best thing about doing the show here on the bus is I can just put my slippers on. These things are the best thing you're going to buy. My whole family has them. Plus, we got the down comforters. We got the pillows, MyPillow 2.0 with the cooling sensation. Now, they also got flannel sheets. Now, if you're in the winter here, flannel sheets, these are awesome. We got them in Pittsburgh, Ann and I. Talk about comfortable, right? Especially when it's cold out. Sammy the cat loves it. Sammy the cat's got his own down comforter, so he's completely outfitted. So here's all you have to do. Go to MyPillow.com. mypillow.com. Get all these great things there right now. Free shipping, promo code FUN, F-U-N. Put in that promo code FUN. You're going to get up to 71% off. 71% off. So MyPillow, long-term sponsor, founding sponsor here of Godzilla Wins. We want to thank them for just great products, great company, great people. And you can also call them, but I don't have the number handy, so I can't give you that. But you can just go to Godzilla. You can go to mypillow.com, mypillow.com, promo code FUN, get up to 71% off. Do it now. Help us out. Help Godzilla Wins out. Help Mike Lindell out. Because look, you get sponsors. If you don't sell anything for them, then they don't continue to be sponsors. It's kind of the way the world works, right? So rather than spend $5 wasting your money and getting ripped off by Peacock and NBC, who are ripping you off for this playoff game, which has still pissed me off beyond belief, you can take that $5. You can go to MyPillow. You can buy something there and get free shipping and be happy. MyPillow.com, promo code FUN. All right, Nate.
All right. Well, it looks like Jack's still getting coffee, so I'll host the show and get us going on our coaching carousel talk.
What's up, Tillman?
Wait.
They're currently, we're joined by James Tillman III, one of our writers for GodzillaWins.com, and rabid Bears fan. We can talk about the fact that they didn't fire their coach too, if you want to. So we have coaching carousel. There's 7 open jobs in the NFL right now. I think that's true. I don't think any have been filled while I was asleep. Notably, Mike Vrabel is unemployed, as is Bill Belichick. So those are the two sort of biggest names that have hit the unemployment line. And then notably, the Bears decided to restart their franchise, fired the defensive coordinator, fired the offensive coordinator. It looks like they're going to draft a number 1 quarterback, and decided to retain Matt Eberflus to develop their new quarterback. So they will not be getting Mike Vrabel or Bill Belichick. I guess the question, Jack, did you have like a question like sort of about the coaching carousel? Let's let John go for a little bit.
Yeah, so between the Vrabel and the Eberflus news, we got 2 guys who I think got some specific opinions on their team. So we're going to let Dad do his thing with Vrabel for a minute here, and then we'll go to the Bears situation. Then we can just talk generally about what's going on. There's just a lot of vacancies right now.
It's
so Dad, go ahead.
It's 8 after the hour. I'm going to limit this to 3 minutes. So I'm going to time myself because I could go on for much, much longer. I'm not going to do that. I'm a Titans fan. I love my Titans. Everybody knows that. I live and die with them every single week. A lot of things about Mike Vrabel I loved. I thought he was the spirit, the heart, the soul of the team. I thought he had the right attitude. I thought he was a pretty good coach. But I'm going to take a very contrarian view to social media, the blogs, and to Titans Nation. Good freaking riddance, okay? Amy Adams Struck, Joan of Arc of owners, did the right thing. She called him in and fired his ass. And I'll tell you why she fired him when it all gets down to it. Number 1, he lost 18 of the last 24 games. This season was a complete and utter debacle. It was worse than losing. This was the most miserable, painful season, if you're a Titans fan, in history. We led the league in, get this, fumbled punts. We led the league in, get this, holding penalties when you get a first down. We led the league in, get this, PIs on 3rd down. We led the league in, get this, the longest passes on 3rd and long. This is what we led the league in. Now, we also had a great red zone defense, but it was a miserable season, right? But here was the kicker. Here's why she fired him. On the bye week, in a losing season, Vrabel got inducted in the Hall of Fame for New England. Don't begrudge him that. Goes on field, waves, right, the whole bit. After the game, he should have gotten his ass on a plane and come back to Nashville. No, he goes in Robert Kraft's box. He sits there for the whole game. He puts on Patriot jackets, Patriot red hat, and then after the game, he makes a public statement, when they're interviewing about being in the Patriots Hall of Fame, about how great the franchise is, what a great culture they have, and how wonderful they are. And Amy Adams Strunk is watching this on TV in the middle of a miserable season. And so you know what she did? She said, you know what, I had enough. Then he goes in there, and now he wants additional power. You just lost 18 out of 24 games in the worst division conference in football, and now you want more power, and you want to question my decision on the general manager, and I'm the owner of the team? I don't think you get it, Vrabel. Have a nice day. She met with him for 2 minutes. She fired him. Now we got to start over. I don't know what's going to happen from here. But look, I own a company. My wife, Ann, is the CEO. If you embarrass her, she doesn't care who you are. She'll fire you before 5 o'clock and call in security. He embarrassed her. He deserved to get fired. I'm sure he'll be a tremendous coach somewhere else. Time to move on. Good riddance.
Have a nice day.
I'll let everybody in on a little secret. Whenever my dad's super mad, he tells someone to have a nice day. Me, Dad, and Nate were arguing on an email thread like 2 weeks ago about something at the website, and we were both disagreeing with my dad, which happens sometimes. And he was sticking to his guns for a while, and then he just gave up. And the last email was just "Have a nice day," and then I didn't hear from him for like 3 days. So Nate found that to be really funny, and has been texting me "Have a nice day" like every day since.
Look, I don't care if you like the woman or not. I really do. I happen to like her. I think she's like the Joan of Arc of owners. But you have to give Amy Adams Strunk this. You have to give her this. The woman is decisive. She fired Robinson after she went to that Philadelphia game, and AJ was making fun of us, and she realized she didn't have the roster to compete. She went in 9 a.m. the next day, knocked on his door with security and a cardboard box, fired him and got him out of there. She did the same thing with Vrabel, right? She waited a couple days till the whole thing was over. She didn't try to shop him for a trade and create that drama. She just called him in. I understand the meeting was under 2 minutes. She fired him. Security was there. They escorted him out, changed his passwords. That's it. You might not like that. You might think it was the wrong move, but you got to give the woman this. She is decisive. She runs a team. And if you know the history of the Adams family, Amy Adams was out of that organization. Her father didn't want her in football. He wanted her to be a lawyer, right? Mm-hmm. Sent her to all the best schools. She was not in charge of that organization. She unmercilessly and ruthlessly ousted family members and got control. The woman is good, okay? And now she owns that team. She got a $1.2 billion stadium. She got the taxpayers to pay for it, right? She did that. I mean, you can say what you want about her. I wouldn't cross her. Vrabel crossed the owner, and she fired him. That's the way the world works. Sorry, Mike. Go work for somebody else. Hope things work out.
Yeah, I believe – I always like the story, I think, of Martha Ford, who doesn't run the Lions anymore. It's Sheila Ford now. But I'm pretty sure Martha Ford back 10 years ago was tired of the old guard in all the Lions sort of upper echelons of administration and all the losing. And she went in one day and fired everyone, like everyone who had worked for her husband for 20 years after he passed. And same sort of thing. And the Lions have really turned their franchise around really based on a lot of the decisions that she made to get rid of all these old guys who couldn't keep up with the times. So both Strunk and the Fords in Detroit are pretty decisive female owners for sure. James, let's move on to the Bears here. We don't have too much time to talk about the rest of the coaching carousel, but these are developing stories. So the Bears keep Eberflus. I don't know how you feel about that. They fire everybody else. They want a new quarterback. Caleb Williams says, "I don't want to be a Bear." So what's going on in Chicago?
Yeah, I wasn't too caught off guard by them keeping Eberflus. I mean, I remember that Ryan Poles gave him a ringing endorsement, not too long out after the game and everything. So I'm not surprised by that. I see they gashed pretty much most of the offensive side of the ball. So I thought that was kind of like, whatever. But I don't know. I've just gotten so used to seeing mediocrity when it comes to this team. So it's like things they do and don't do. It kind of doesn't shock you all that much all that much anymore because, and then they still haven't officially made a decision on Justin Fields, and I don't know if he still had the pieces around him. I mean, the offensive line didn't come together until the last quarter of the season when I think they said that it was the first time that unit had started for 4 or 5 consecutive games, and they still only have like one true receiver. So yeah, I'm not surprised by anything just yet. But I am curious to see what they're going to ultimately do with Fields.
They should trade him. I mean, Nate and I talked about a scenario where he gets traded to Atlanta. I think as an Atlanta fan, I'd love to see that, all those offensive weapons there. I think Fields could. I think Fields in the right system works. I don't think the Bears have enough weapons to make it work for him, and he has to do too much and rely on, just what seems to be kind of a mediocre offense as far as weapons go. But, we'll see about that. Now, Dan,
all right, just one quick Bears thing, just Bears mediocrity real quick. If Sam Howell played for the Bears, he would have the all-time single-season passing record this year. They've never had a 4,000-yard passer in their
there it is, right there.
History.
yeah, well,
Still the
Mic
record
drop.
holder from 1995 with 3,828 yards.
yeah.
No,
I mean,
Sam
Right.
Howell would be a leader in Chicago.
See?
Thank
Thank you, Nate. Thank you.
all right. Yeah. I mean, Sexy Rexy led them to a Super Bowl, right? When they lost like in the mid-aughts. So the last time I think the Bears have been to a Super Bowl, and I wouldn't exactly say Rex Grossman is going in the Hall of Fame anytime soon. Now,
Rex had
Dan-
a game that year where the Bears committed 7 turnovers and won.
That's great.
yeah, they had that. That was Lovie Smith. They had those nasty defenses back then.
That was the memorable Cardinals game.
Yeah, that's
Dennis
right.
Green. Dennis Green. Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
I
They are who we thought
I
they were.
remember that well, actually, because that was the time when I still had an NFL team and was a Cardinals fan at the time. I'm sitting there watching with a bunch of my journalism friends, because this was sophomore year of college, and Missouri's journalism program is populated by a ton of Bears fans. So pretty much everyone who's not from Illinois or Missouri can't stand the Bears who goes there. So a bunch of my friends are pulling for the Cardinals because they're sick of seeing the Bears win, because that was the year the Bears were dominating. And I'm sitting there 23-3 Arizona, like, guys, we're gonna blow this. Don't get excited. This is
We are who they thought they were.
yeah. And the Cardinals were exactly who I thought they were. I wish live betting had existed then. I would have cashed so hard on the Bears on the money line there.
Yeah.
Greatest post NFL game football conference, right up there with playoffs and Jim Mora, was the late great Dennis Green. I play that on my radio show once a month. We just laugh because the rant was so
That's
epic.
what we thought they were.
What
we
the
thought they
Bears, the Bears are who we thought they were.
Yeah.
We let them off the hook.
The best part about that is he knocks over the microphone at the end. Like
Yeah.
he
And
didn't.
then the
It is
PR
not even an
guy's like,
accident.
Thanks,
And
coach.
he just
Matt
walks
Leonard will
away.
be
Like
back.
he answers one question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He swats
And
the
the question
microphone.
was about Grossman turning it over 7 times.
Yeah, he was pretty pissed. So we don't have any more time to really talk about the coaching carousel. We'll continue to discuss the Belichick situation. I mean, he's going to land somewhere. Part of me thinks the reason a lot of these teams are moving on is maybe they feel like they have a roster that's ready to win now that Belichick can use in the next 2 or 3 years to get them a Super Bowl. The Eagles are rumored to be thinking about moving on from Sirianni. If they lose this week, the Cowboys are always rumored to be moving on from Mike McCarthy because nobody liked him. So, we shall see. Now we got to get to these wild card games. We still got 6 to talk about. We're going to talk about the first game, the Browns-Texans game here first. Now, I want to start with Nate because, Nate, you one of the tickets you cashed was a Texans division winner future. You've been on the Texans all year long. They're hosting the Browns. Joe Flacco, quarterback for the Browns right now. Texans are +2, so they're the dog, which I find I understand why, but I find to be a little disrespectful of what Houston. They've won 10 games this year, over under 44.5. Nate, do you buy that the Texans can win or cover? You want to take them on the money line? What you think?
I think that this is a big ask for the Texans. I mean, they battled so valiantly through so many injuries that I think now that they've made it to the playoffs, I think they're just kind of limping in. I mean, they needed a lot of good things to happen just to cash that AFC South winning ticket. They needed the Jaguars to lose in the final week of the season, in addition to winning themselves. I just feel like this is a bad spot. Like, quarterbacks making their debut in the playoffs are almost never good against the spread. It's something like they're like 17-35-1 or something against the spread. If you're a rookie making your debut. So that's not great. I guess like where I'm like leaning in terms of like betting it is I kind of like teasing Houston, doing like a 6-point teaser and teasing Houston from 2-8, and then you tease like the Buccaneers from 3-9. That crosses you through a whole bunch of key numbers, and I think that's probably one of the better teaser options on the board. So that would be sort of how I'm going to play it. I cashed all my money out on the Texans, so now, I'll just see them next season. But I think that it's a pretty strong ask for them to win this game against a Cleveland team and a Cleveland defense that's going to be pretty nasty.
So, James, can the Cleveland defense hold the CJ Stroud and the Texans on the road here and get the W?
You know what? I actually like the Texans here. Everyone knows it's not a secret how great Cleveland's defense has been this year. Ranked first in total yards allowed and passing yards allowed, and I think they were third as far as recording interceptions go. So that's out there. But also, they're a different team, it seems, when they play on the road compared to home. They only allow like 13.5 points at home, and that number climbs to 29.5 on the road. So then I'm also came across a couple of spread trends here. Houston is 5-2 against the spread in their last 7 home games against the Browns, and the Texans are 6-2 in their last 8 games when they are the underdog. So I'm going to go with the Texans covering the 2.
Dan, do you like the Texans here?
No, I do not. I have got to go with the Browns because we already saw this matchup a couple weeks ago. Granted, Stroud didn't play, but Cleveland led that game 36-7 in the fourth quarter. I don't think Stroud is going to make a 29-point difference in this one. The play that I really love here, which James kind of alluded to a little bit, is taking the over, because the over has hit in every single Cleveland road game this year. Like, as James mentioned, Cleveland's defense does not travel very well, but I also don't think that the Texans can stop the Browns. So I think that this game is going to see quite a bit of points. I do think Myles Garrett is going to make life very difficult for CJ Stroud. That might produce a few short fields. I like Cleveland to cover on the 2.5 here, and I like over 44.
Dad, I bet you like Cleveland here. I know you're not a Houston believer.
I love Cleveland. Look, all these stats are nice, but you get to playoff football, forget it. Everything starts over. Everything is new. Everything is different. And I do very well in the playoffs by betting the better team on the field. The Browns have got the best defense in the NFL right now. Going against a rookie quarterback, all banged up, a lot of their offensive line banged up. This is the best defensive team. You cannot count them out in any game. When you got that kind of a defense, you cannot count Cleveland out. Look, Flacco came back from the dead. I don't know, they took him out of the coffin. Guy was on his couch eating Cheetos, and now he's throwing touchdown passes all over the place. It's a redemption for him. Been there, done that. I saw him beat the Titans once when we were the number 1 seed. The guy, the guy's got it, the experience. But I just like this Browns defense. I think they're going to dominate today. Laying 2, I'm taking the Browns.
I like the Texans here just with the +2. I do think Dan makes a compelling point. They got blown out, but I just think at home it's an atmosphere where they can keep it close. I don't know if they can win, but I don't think this game's going to be a blowout. I think Stroud can keep it close. And the over is kind of an interesting play because everybody's thinking the under with the Browns defense. So I haven't really thought too much about taking the over there. But, again, the Texans didn't have an answer for the Browns offense a couple weeks ago. And with CJ Stroud, you expect the Texans to score a little bit more. So maybe that 44 is priced a little too low. Now, Dad, right before we get to the Dolphins-Chiefs game, so you can complain a little bit more about it being aired on Peacock, let's talk about something that you don't have to complain about because you love it so much, and that's Rosie's Gaming Emporium and Casino. So out there in Virginia, you can't do much better, Dad, than Rosie's Gaming Emporium. Tell us how anyone in the area can get involved with some of the best entertainment in Virginia.
Well, I wish I was in Virginia right now, because if I was in Virginia, Ann and I would go to one of the Rosie's gaming locations. They got all through the state. They got Danville, which is on the south side. They got Emporia now. They're in Dumfries, which is in Northern Virginia. Richmond, right by our studio. Colonial Downs in New Kent, which is kind of in between Hampton Roads and Richmond. They've got Hampton. So they have all these locations all over the place. Vinton outside of Roanoke. It is the most fun place you're ever going to go. Here's the 3 things I love about Rosie's. Number 1, they got the biggest jackpots. Number 2, they got the biggest payouts. Oh, John, you're just saying that. No, it's true. You know why? Because when the Virginia General Assembly let them in and negotiated this, they have the lowest takeout of any state in the country as far as gambling is concerned. So if the state gets a lower tax take, well, then the players win more money. That's one of the best things about it. No one else can compete with them. Biggest jackpot. But it's just the atmosphere there. Every time we go, we have the best time, because I go upstairs. I don't really do the slots that much, once in a while. But I go upstairs. They got all the games on. They got all the major TVs on. They got OTB. I can bet track in the country. I bet all the games. It is the most fun you're going to have. And the food is great. Drinks are great. It's reasonably priced. It's clean. You know, you go in some of these casinos, you know how it's darker and there's smoky. There's no smoking. The thing is totally clean. It's beautiful. You got to have such a good time. And if you have a date or something, or you just want a night out and have fun, just go to Rosie's. Rosie'sGaming.com. Rosie'sGaming.com. Biggest jackpots, biggest payouts. Go there, win money, have fun.
So we're going to move on to the Dolphins game here. Dolphins Chiefs. The Miami Dolphins traveling to a frigid environment at in Kansas City at Arrowhead, the GEHA Stadium in Arrowhead.
Just call it Arrowhead.
Yeah, Arrowhead. So
unless Giha is one of our sponsors or whatever it is, just call it Arrowhead.
Yeah, Arrowhead Stadium there in Kansas City. So going to be frigid, like minus 20. Really could be a difficult environment for Miami, who is not known for doing this well in that type of weather. James, we'll start with you. The Dolphins are at 4.5-point dog, over under 43.5. You know, they slipped from the 2 seed to the 6 seed after a key loss last week against Buffalo. So, I mean, maybe Miami's a little better than the 6 seed, but that 4.5-point spread in the weather, I don't know, seems pretty reasonable. What do you think?
Yeah, I like KC here. And to piggyback off your point, they mentioned that the Dolphins are 0-10 in games when it's 40 degrees below at kickoff. So, and then we also have KC, who's allowed the second fewest total yards and points per game all season, and they have held their opponents, 13 of their 17 opponents, to 20 points or less during the season. I don't know. I'm not sure if there's going to be a lot of points scored due to the inclement weather, but I think KC can cover this one.
Now, Dan, you're acquainted with the Missouri winters,
Yes,
which
I am.
which can be harsh. Is this? I mean, do we need to play weatherman too much, or is this more just a matchup game? I mean, maybe the Chiefs are just a better team.
I mean, they are, and Miami has had a big problem beating good teams all year, so that's a point in the Chiefs' favor. And James mentioned one half of the equation, that the Dolphins have lost their last 10 when it's been 40 degrees or lower at kickoff. Guess what the Chiefs have done in their last 10 when it's been 40 or lower at kickoff? 9-1, 4-0 in the postseason. And this seems really straightforward. Miami's just got to be kicking themselves for blowing that game against Buffalo, because instead of getting to host the Steelers in a mild environment, they have to go freeze them in Kansas City. It's not going to end well. I'm back in the Chiefs.
Yeah, Dad. One of the things you always say now, you don't bet the opponent when you're in Arrowhead, especially in the playoffs. This is such a classic Chiefs playoffs game. It always gets cold there around this time. It's difficult to play. It's just like Lambeau, or Buffalo. I mean, playing at home in this type of weather up there, it's just difficult. And for a team like Miami that relies on the finesse, it doesn't seem like anyone's taken the 4.5. What do you think, Dad?
Well, it's really like when San Diego and Dan Fouts went to Cincinnati for that AFC Championship game in the Ice Bowl. It was minus 15 degrees. I mean, I'm in Iowa, in Des Moines. I don't know how far. What? The Ice Bowl?
No, the Ice Bowl was Dallas Green Bay. San Diego Cincinnati was the Freezer Bowl.
The Freezer Bowl. I saw. Okay. All I know was cold. And look, two things here, right? I'm in Iowa. It's expected today to be -5. I'm not sure how far we are from Kansas City. I have no idea. But I think they said with the wind chill factor. Yeah, they said with the wind chill factor, it's going to be like -10. Here's the question about the Dolphins. Have they beat a team this season with a winning record? Answer, no. So they beat also-rans. They beat the doormats. In fact, they got beat by the Titans, who suck. So that's why they're in this position. They haven't beaten anybody good. You almost got to ask the question, is this team a fraud? I mean, I think that's a legitimate question. I guess we're going to find out. But to try to bet against the Chiefs here at home, -10 with the wind blowing and snow around, against a team that's, I think James said or somebody said, 0-10 when it's 40 degrees or under a kickoff, maybe they get a last-minute touchdown and cover the 4.5. But again, playoffs, go with the team that you think is better that's going to win. I love Kansas City here in Arrowhead at home in the freezing cold, beating a team that I think is a fraud. So I like the Chiefs minus the 4.5.
Dad, where are you in Iowa?
Des Moines.
Okay, so you're 3 hours away.
3 hours?
3 hour shot down I-35.
Yeah. So right now, it is where I am right now. It is -3.
Yeah.
And tomorrow it's supposed to go down to -5. Monday, which is Caucus Day, is supposed to be. I don't even know how this is possible. -15. Like, is that even?
Yeah, that's possible.
I mean, is that even a real temperature? Like, what is that?
That was what it was in 2015 when I was living in Iowa.
Yeah, I don't envy any of the Iowans right now. I'm more of a warm weather guy myself, but that's just me growing up in Georgia. Nate, I bet you're gonna zag the other way and go with the Dolphins.
I'm not. I thought about it. I've been trying to find reasons that I like Miami, and it's just too difficult. I mean, they're so injured. Kansas City's going to have a big rest advantage, just from being able to rest their guys last week. Miami didn't have that luxury. They had to play a pretty high leverage game, and they come in just sort of a mess. I mean, they already limped in, and now they're injured, and they're going and playing in weather that they're seldom successful at. They haven't won when it's been 40 or below. They haven't won since 2017, Miami, anywhere. This is going to be probably the fourth coldest game in NFL history. The coldest game Tua's ever won was 48 degrees on Black Friday. He's just, and this is going to be 50 degrees colder. Like, this is not, it's not good for them. I just don't think they're built for it. Kansas City should be more comfortable. John's right. The Dolphins haven't beaten really very many good teams. They're 1-5 against playoff teams this season. Kansas City is obviously, a decent playoff team. I don't love the 4.5 though. That's what keeps me off of this. I think I'm more comfortable taking either KC and just laying the juice and just betting the money line, or if you just really hate laying 210, maybe you can parlay them with the Cowboys money line. That gets you to -122. If you parlay them with the Bills money line, that gets you -140 payout. So if you like the Cowboys or the Bills, maybe toss them in a money line
Nate,
parlay.
I have no idea what you just said. I would go back to what you said. I would go back to what you said on the Michigan game. They're a better team, and you laid the 4.5, and you won in a blowout, and you won a lot of money. You know what?
Jack, did you understand what I said?
I don't. No, we're not doing that. But a money line parlay is pretty straightforward. You pick two teams on the money line to win, and your juice goes down. So chill out on your.
Who's your two teams in the money line? I couldn't follow that.
That's what I just said. I said either parlay them with Dallas at -1, and you get -122 on the parlay, or parlay them with the Bills and you get -140 on the parlay.
What if you bet a 3-team parlay money line?
Then it'd probably be like +150-ish, +160.
Let me look.
That sounds good. I might do that.
Oh, there you go. So now you magically understand how it works.
Occasional moment.
Yeah,
the
all of a
third
sudden
team was necessary.
Yeah.
I just need a clarification.
Yeah, once you get the third
maybe
team,
that could do this. Like, what's your bet?
As soon as he heard, you might get plus money if you get the third team, then he's like, I understand.
Plus
That's
120
great,
if you take all three of them.
What is it?
Plus
I think I'm
121.
going to do that.
Okay, that's pretty good.
So okay, there you go.
It's probably smart.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big. I don't know. Parlays are tough. I'd rather
Ready to
just
get back to on the Miami game. Really,
Just-
that's really it.
yeah, just give me a win so I can get out of there. I've always been,
Yeah.
I don't win consistently enough to be like betting like 5-team parlays or whatever, trying to strike it rich like I'm, panning for gold in San Francisco.
I gotta get my wife to listen to that piece of advice. Amy loves betting parlays whenever I give her $5 to bet.
Yeah. I mean, they are fun. I'm not consistent enough as a handicapper to knock off 5 in a row. Let's move on to the next game, which is the Steelers at Bills. This is going to be I believe this is a Sunday game. It's like the afternoon game. Now, another weather update here. Buffalo, I think the wind is supposed to be nuts. I think there's supposed to be a bunch of snow that usually comes off the lake around this time of year. So some weather things here. That's why the over-under is 33.5. Steelers are a 9-point underdog. James, we'll start with you. Are you interested in taking the points with the Steelers, or where are you going to go with this game?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a strange season for Pittsburgh. I think we talked about it actually at the time it was going on. Through their first 9 or 10 games, they had been outgained like in every one of those contests, and yet they still had an above 500 record. So, but so that was crazy to me. And I guess with Mason Rudolph under center over the last 3 games, the offense has played a little bit better, scoring 27 points per game compared to 13.5 in Kenny Pickett's last 5 starts. So, but then the big thing for me is T.J. Watt not being able to suit up in this game. And since he came into the league, they are 1-10 without him. Now, with the Steelers' 6th ranked defense and Josh Allen, I think he was second only behind Sam Howell in interceptions. I think those 2 factors and the weather will kind of keep this close. So I'm going to go with the Steelers to cover.
Dan, no TJ Watt, 9-point spread. Buffalo at home. Buffalo seems to be trending in the right direction. Is this a spot where Buffalo can make a run?
I mean, I don't know about necessarily making a run, but I think Buffalo has a pretty easy time of it going here. And the Steelers are all about their defense. And with no TJ Watt, they just become so much easier to beat. And I think that the snow is probably really going to impact both offenses. But Josh Allen can run the ball. Mason Rudolph, not so much. So, yeah, I think it's probably going to be a Steelers team total under is probably a good play. And I think Buffalo ends up smashing them.
Dad, you're spokesman of the Berg. You want to take the 9?
No. I love watching Pittsburgh. I love their coach Tomlin. I love that huge crucifix he wears like Deion Sanders. I'm a Christian, so I just love that, and I love the grit of the team. I mean, you're in Pittsburgh. They're not very good, but they grit it out. Kind of reminds me of the old Titans that won games that they shouldn't have won. They always found a way to win. Steelers always finding some crazy way to win games. They just tough it out. But I think reality strikes now. The loss of T.J. Watt cannot be overemphasized. And the problem is if they get down by 2 touchdowns, they're done, right? I mean, you see no scenario where they come back here in the snow with, Mason Rudolph leading like 3 drives in the second half. I don't see it. I don't like the 9. I think it's a lot. But right now, Buffalo's on a roll. They're the team to beat, and I think if they get ahead early, this thing could be a blowout. So I'm gonna lay the 9 with the Bills.
I think if you're Pittsburgh, you just never fire Tomlin. I mean, it would take such a cratering to fire this guy who just never has a losing season, is always in the playoffs, doesn't matter what the team looks like. I would, as an NFL fan, I would trade 9-7 for like 13-3 year and 5 years where you're like 6-14 or whatever, 6-13. I would want the Tomlin consistency of 9-7 every year where you're in the hunt. That's all you really want. So, I mean, if I was Pittsburgh, I'd be happy where I am. I'm not sure that they can win this game. I don't know if they can cover. Nate, do you think Pittsburgh can cover here? I mean, the 9's a lot, and you've been on the Bills.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably just be watching this game for fun. I mean, it's hard for me to lay 10 in a playoff game, especially with this bad of weather. I actually have some Bills futures when they're like drifted up to like 18-1 when they were kind of in their losing streak to win the Super Bowl. So I'll probably just be sweating those. But I mean, in terms of the game, the Bills look like they're built to win this. The Steelers stink without TJ Watt. They're 1-10 in straight up in games that he's missed. They just don't win when he's not on the field. He's like the single most important defensive player in the NFL to that team. He just does so much for them. Mason Rudolph, looked okay against bad defenses, and he looked terrible playing basically Baltimore's reserves last week. I just can't see a path for them. Josh Allen's used to playing in cold, crappy weather. That's kind of been his whole career. Mason Rudolph is, backup level. It seems like the Bills roll, but gosh, I just haven't been able to press send on the bet yet. But this feels like an easy Bills victory.
My favorite bet here for this game is Josh Allen over 38.5 rushing yards. No TJ Watt, so and they love to utilize Allen's legs in the playoffs. They're not as worried about his durability anymore. Now, of course, he can throw the ball too. It's in the bad weather, in the snow. I think Allen probably hits 50 yards rushing pretty easily. That's my favorite play here is just Allen over 38.5 rushing yards. No TJ Watt, weather.
I really like that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a good bet.
Also,
that's
another
been
play that I really like. I think I was like plus 400 somewhere. Either team 2-point conversion in the game.
Oh yeah, especially with the wind. That's a really nice play there. Yeah, I could see Tomlin just going for 2, just so he doesn't have to kick a few extra point in the wind. That's a nice one. If you can
I think
find
it might
that
be Buffalo who goes for 2 more than Pittsburgh because the Steelers do trust Boswell quite a bit.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, let's move on to the next game on the schedule, which is the Packers at Cowboys. Nate's beloved Cowboys playing a team that historically has frustrated Dallas for years and years to come. However, this is a new Dallas team, and Dak Prescott said he was only going to throw 10 interceptions this year or less than 10. I don't know how many interceptions he threw. Let's see if he
9.
Okay, so he threw 9. So look, the Oracle himself telling you he's not going to throw 10. It's like he got to 9 and was like, let's just hand the ball off from now on. Cowboys are a 7-point favorite at home, over under 50.5. So big spread there. Obviously, big total. The Cowboys and Packers both score well. Now, Dallas has played well at home all year long. They stink on the road, but they've been strong at home. So Nate, is this a game where Dallas just covers that large spread because of their dominance at home, or do those old Packers nightmares flare up?
I think that where I'm headed with this is I'm just going to bet the total and then root for the Cowboys. The total's 50.5 right now, unless it's changed recently. This feels kind of like a shootout to me. Green Bay can't play defense at all. Their defense is terrible, and Dallas is going to score a lot of points on them. That's just how that's going to go. I mean, Dak's playing like the best quarterback in the NFC right now. I don't think there's a lot of people arguing with that. Maybe Brock Purdy's a little better, but I mean, Dak, just what he's done on the level of stats has just been outrageous. I think over. This feels like a shootout. This feels like a dumb shootout that the Cowboys will win, but Green Bay is going to get their points too because Dallas always does stupid stuff in the playoffs, and I just never trust them. So just over, and then Dallas maybe squeaks by, but I don't want to lay 7 with Dallas.
Yeah, if Dallas is in the playoffs, you know something stupid's going to happen. Now, James, your nightmare, James, would be the Packers-Lions in the NFC Championship. So I gotta think. I gotta think that you might be taking the Cowboys here, James.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, you're right. That will be a nightmare for me because I took a lot of their games during the season. So you're right. The absolute nightmare there. So, but in any event, I'm going with the Cowboys here. Not only did they go 8-0 this season, I think they won like 16 straight at AT&T Stadium, and that's their longest home winning streak since they had an 18 game winning streak back in 79 through 81. So, and not only that, but they outscored their opponents by 21 and a half points per game at home. And they also have a point differential plus 172 in those games. And the last thing I'll leave you with is that they are 10-0 straight up and 7-3 against the spread in their last 10 games when they were the favorite.
So, Dan, any love for the Packers here? Then we'll close out with that.
Well, I mean, since this is the game that I'm blacked out of, I'm going to yield my time to Nate to talk about college basketball. No, I'm kidding. So, anyway, even though I don't get to see this game, I will talk about it. So I'm going to take Dallas because, I mean, the 7 seed has basically been cannon fodder. Like there have been 6 games where the number 2 seed has played the 7 seed since the playoff expansion, and the 2 seed has won all of them. And usually it's not close. So Dallas has been rock solid at home this year, and I just don't think Green Bay is all that good. So I'm going to lay the points with the Cowboys. I might go ahead and throw the Cowboys and the Bills into a teaser just to give myself a little bit of a cushion, but I think Dallas will be fine.
Now, Dad, you got to like Dallas, right? I mean, you've been on Dallas a lot this year.
I mean, Cowboys at home -7. This is a good bet. They're gonna win the game. Green Bay's not there. As far as I'm concerned, they backed into the playoffs. Jordan Love's got some potential going down, but I mean, does anybody really see the Packers going in Dallas winning this game? I gotta tell fans out there, when you're betting these playoff games, don't bet a team because you think they're going to cover. If you don't think that the Packers are going to walk out of Dallas, go into the next game and moving on in the playoffs, don't bet them. You know, maybe Dallas wins by 6 and you lose the bet, but it's just not a good formula. Dallas is going to win this game. They're a better team. They're tough at home. They're on a roll. Prescott's got something to prove. Packers backed in. Cowboys are going to win this game. I think they cover, and I think they win. So I'm going to go with Dallas -7.
Now, look, 2 more games to get to, one of which I'm just absolutely locked into. The other one I could care less about. So let's talk first about the Rams at the Lions. Now, let me tell you guys. I mean, I'm gonna take my 30 seconds here because this is I am in love with the Los Angeles Rams. This team is not the same team from the beginning of the year. They have won the last 7 out of 8 games. That includes a win against Seattle, which is always a tough team for them, and the San Francisco win last week, as well as a Cleveland win. Now, they also beat up on some bad teams. I think New Orleans stinks. We all know Washington stinks. The Cardinals stink, and the Giants stink. So, but, you got to beat bad teams to get into the playoffs. So 7 out of the last 8 they've won. Their only loss was to Baltimore, arguably the best team in the league, in overtime. They almost won that game as well. They are ATS in their last 6 games. They're 7-1. So even with the 1 loss in that spread, they haven't lost. So, they lost the Baltimore game. So even with that 1 loss, they covered. And they're going into Detroit, who I don't think can always handle the heat in the playoffs. I mean, we just haven't seen Detroit shake its historically bad performances both in the regular season and in the playoffs yet. This is the year everybody's cheering for Detroit, of course. They're a really good football team, but they are coming up against probably the best wild card team in the league right now. They're super hot. And not only that, if you want to get on this action, 40-1 or 33-1, some places 35-1, the Rams to win the Super Bowl. There's only 8 teams left or whatever. I lock that in. I mean, I just think of all the long odds to win the Super Bowl. Of course, Nate's got that 18-1 on the Bills that he took when the Bills were struggling. But on all the long odds right now, I think the Rams have the best chance of making a run. They've done it before. Stafford's a proven quarterback. He's not going to be nervous playing in Detroit, somewhere he's played forever. Sean McVay's an incredible coach. I think the Rams win this game. I think you just take the money line. You don't even need the points, but if you want the points, also Rams to win the Super Bowl. Love that future as well. So that's my 30 seconds there. I'm all in on the Rams this year. Totally pumped. This is my team going forward, just like Jacksonville was last year, and they won one game and then got bounced. James, what do you think here? Rams, Lions, we'll start with you. You're well acquainted with Detroit. Can Detroit get past some of this and get to a divisional round?
Yeah, I mean, you made a good point, and I'll elaborate on that. It's their first home playoff game in like 30 years. I think 1992, 93 was their last home playoff game. So you have that. But they have covered the spread 5 times in their last six games, including their 30-20 win over the Vikings last week. They are balanced on both sides of the football. They're ranked fifth in rushing and second in passing yards, and they've scored at least 30 points in 8 of their last 11 games, and their run defense is just allowing 3.7 yards per carry. So I am going to go with Detroit here, but I'm sure none of you are surprised by that pick.
Yeah, you've been on Detroit all year long. You watch a lot of Detroit football. Dan, is Detroit the play here at the -3? I mean, it's a bargain if you like Detroit. I mean, you don't get a lot of those short spreads in these wildcard games.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Lions, I mean, they've been outstanding at Ford Field all year. This fan base has waited so long for something like this to finally come to Detroit. And there's also the Jared Goff factor. I mean, nobody has taken more abuse, undeserved abuse, than this guy for how he played. He was never appreciated in Los Angeles, and now he's the man who brought Detroit its first home playoff game ever at Ford Field, and he gets to do it against the team that gave up on him. Like, I don't think Jared Goff lets his team lose this game. I think it's going to be an offensive shootout. I really like the over, and I really like Detroit.
Dad, someone's got to love Los Angeles with me.
You know what's so interesting, just so our audience knows this, my son and I have talked this week probably 3, maybe 4 times about stuff, family, and stuff that he's doing and we're doing, and here, and probably had some pretty in-depth conversations. We didn't collaborate on this game, but I agree with my son 110%. We both came to the same conclusion. I think number one, the Rams at 37, they're 37-1 right now on DraftKings. I bet them earlier in the week. This is the most dangerous team going in the playoffs. When I talk about dangerous teams, I'm not talking about the best team like the Ravens. I'm talking about just a dangerous team. Like, here's the thing: you don't want to play the Rams right now. This is a team you just don't want to play. They're hot. They play defense. They score. They have a veteran quarterback. They're very well coached. They stop the run. They got to find secondary. This is the best wild card team. I agree with that. They're the most dangerous team. If I'm Detroit, this is the last team I feel like playing because they're coming in hot on a roll. And if you watch them the last couple of weeks, guys, they got that swagger back. Whatever it is that they had when they got in the Super Bowl, they got that swagger back. Look, everybody loves the Lions story. I mean, it's just heartwarming, Hard Knocks, and Dan Campbell and Jared Goff, and they're home. And, we're all rooting for the Lions, right? I mean, everybody in their heart would love to see Detroit get this win. But this Rams team is underrated. They're very good, and they're peaking at the right time. I think the Rams win this whole game, and I think they're a threat. I think they're a threat getting the Super Bowl. I think they can beat San Francisco. I think they can beat Dallas on the road. So I love the Rams here. I think they win this whole game. This is my upset pick of the week. Rams +3. Very dangerous spot here for Detroit.
Nate, I don't think you share the Rams fever, do you?
I do in this game. I mean, I think they beat Detroit. I think they win outright, probably. I'll be on them +3 just because I want that kind of key number. But I think the Rams probably get this done. It's just they have an experience edge over Detroit. I think with Stafford and McVay, and honestly, the Rams just look healthier. Like when the Rams have Stafford healthy, Kyron Williams healthy, Puka healthy, and Cooper Kupp healthy, they've been unbelievable offensively. They've been almost unstoppable. They're like, I think if you just isolate the 8 games that they've all been healthy, they're like second in DVOA on offense. That's huge. And Detroit's defense has shown some flaws. They can be scored against, and I think they're going to have a really hard time slowing down the Rams. And ultimately, I think the Rams just have a little bit better defense than Detroit does, and I think that's probably the difference maker. So I think the Rams probably move on just with experience and having a little bit more balanced team. They're also a healthier team. Detroit picked up a couple of injuries. I think Sam Laporta's injury is going to hurt them a lot in terms of like what they want to do offensively. So I like the Rams as well.
And look, if you don't want to touch the spread, take the over, like Dan said. I mean, it's high, 51.5. Both these teams are going to score. This is an offensive game in a dome. You don't have to worry about the weather. This is a game where the over makes a lot of sense. Now, the last game on the card here, this is a Monday night, Eagles, Bucks. Nobody seems super excited about either of these teams. You got the Eagles, who have just been an absolute dumpster fire the last half of the season, losing to everybody. Defense sucks. Offense can't score. Sirianni's on the hot seat, even though he's in the playoffs. And then you got the king of the NFC South, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just step up if you want it. It doesn't, this isn't exactly the Bucs of 3 years ago with Tom Brady and everything. This is a team that, I don't know. I mean, sometimes they look pretty good, but they're the only home team not favored other than the Texans. So the Texans and the Bucs, not a lot of love there. The Bucs are +3. Everybody expecting the Eagles with their experience to win this game over under 43.5. Dad, we'll start with you. Eagles, Bucs up there in Tampa Bay. Can Baker Mayfield take the Bucs to a divisional round?
I don't know if he can do that, but the Eagles are going to manage to find a way to lose this game. I mean, they've been absolutely pathetic down the stretch. I mean, we knew their defense all season. We kept saying, Nate and I, that this team's defense is really suspect. They got no linebackers. Now it's getting worse. Byard is done. That's why the Titans unloaded him for a carton of camels. Basically, he's done. The whole secondary's gotten decimated. They're just not very good. And then you got this locker room nightmare going on with A.J. Brown, where he just took all of his Eagle stuff off of social media. I mean, you just don't need this distraction going into a playoff game. This is one of the problems that I guess Robinson and the Titans had with the guy pops off on social media, pisses him off. And so he's a cancer in the locker room again. And so this team is in complete disarray. They got to go to Tampa. Look, they got a solid defense. They're not flashy, but how can you bet unless you're an Eagles fan? How can you legitimately bet on the Eagles this week after the garbage they've served up the last 5 or 6 weeks? You got to go with Tampa at home. Figure they're gonna win. Figure the Eagles are gonna lose this game. Tampa beats them.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles have been beating themselves all season since about October. James, is this another situation where maybe Tampa gets the win?
Yeah, I mean, Eagles, they started off like world beaters, like 10-1. They're averaging 28 points a game. Then they hit this 1-5 slide, and that, their points per game has dropped to like 20.5 points during that stretch. And they've also allowed on the defensive side, they've allowed 31.2 points per game. And they've allowed 25.2 points per game overall, which is the most of any of the teams in the playoffs. They haven't had a touchdown in the last 4 road games. I understand that. Yeah, right. I understand that Hurts is dealing with a dislocated finger, and I know that A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith are also nursing injuries, as is that's the case with Baker Mayfield as well. I think he's dealing with ribs and an ankle injury, so he may be hobbled somewhat. But I like the. I don't think the Eagles will lose, but I definitely like the Tampa Bay to cover the spread here. So I have a hard time believing that we're actually having this conversation of them falling off the map the way that they have. But here we are.
Now, Dan, you wrote up this game for GodzillaWins.com. So go to GodzillaWins.com. You'll see Dan's Eagles Bucks expert pick and prediction. Take us out here as far as the Eagles Bucks. What you see in this game?
I mean, I really like the under. I think both of these offenses are very suspect. I mean,
Definitely.
they played out a really low scoring game early in the year, and that was when Philadelphia's offense was actually looking decent. And the Eagles have been anything but. Any team that's capable of losing at home to Arizona is certainly capable of going down to Tampa and getting beat. I think the Bucks win this game outright, and I think it's going to be a low scoring battle. So Tampa to win and under 43.5 look very good to me.
Yeah, I love that under 43.5 too. I think Nate's in agreement. That's a good play. I think we all like
that's
that
a good
one.
play.
Now, I want to thank Dan Angel for joining us for the entire 2 hours. You can find him on X at DanAngel11 and find him on Instagram at Dan.Angel11, as well as his Substack, which launched this week. You can find that. Dan, tell us what the Substack's called so people can find it.
Angels Sports Analytics.
Angel Sports Analytics, and he's got great content pretty much every morning. So you check that on your inbox if you're interested in that as well. We want to thank James Tillman III, as always, for our NFL segment. You can find him on Twitter at TillJam3. Thank my father, the Godzilla of Truth out there in Iowa, and Nate as well. In the words of my father, I'll leave you with this week. Have a nice day. War Room's up next.